Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast, July 2nd. Hopefully, a lot of you get to listen to this driving to friends, family, or exciting things this weekend. Safe travels to everybody. Are you doing anything fun for the 4th, Trev?
Nothing too crazy. I've been without water here for a few days at my place. So just got back, got the water fixed. I've got lawn to mow. The 4th of July, I'll probably just hang out at home, maybe do some golf with some friends, and then listen to the new Zach Bryan album is kind of my big plans for the 4th. So nothing crazy. How about you?
On the 5th, so we might go. I haven't decided when we're leaving for sure, but I'm going to head up to Minnesota to watch the Twins on the 5th. So 4th is kind of nothing too much. We may leave. We may not leave. The game's not till Friday night, so we don't have to leave until Friday morning if we wanted to, but we'll see. I think the weather's not going to be great here. We had a heck of a storm tonight. We got flash flooding. We got the water coming down the Des Moines River from northern Iowa that was flooding a couple weeks ago. So we got all kinds of problems here in Iowa right now with water, which is crazy because we've been in a drought for so long before this. But we don't know what to do with all the water we've got. Had to go drop Tyler off at his mom's house today. He was supposed to have baseball practice at 6:45. Well, obviously it got stormed out, rained out. So we were up there a little ahead of time, and yeah, there's water over roads coming off the highway, getting it into Pella, and every field has water in it, and every little creek is running as fast as it can. So we've got lots of water here. So hopefully, everybody doesn't have water in their basements and everything else like that. Lucky here so far. But yeah, I think Thursday is supposed to not be great weather here. Tomorrow's supposed to be good. So probably just grill out, do something, kind of pretty boring on the 4th, nothing too much. Just kind of make that decision on whether to head up to Minnesota on Thursday or Friday. So kind of a good time to drive, a 4-hour drive up to Minnesota, though, because the Zach Bryan album will be listened to on the way up.
Yeah, there you go. I got, like I said, no crazy plans on the 4th, so I'll probably listen to that. And I know I text you here once we get off. I'm going to go to the new Horizon American Saga movie with Kevin Costner once we get off here tonight. So before that, had the Fever game on. They're playing better. They're competing with some good teams now. Got the big win against Phoenix the other night. And then right before we got on here, I know Clark had 3 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists for the first quarter. So they're playing better as a team.
Absolutely. And we've talked about Caitlin Clark every episode really since the turn of the year. And really, since the NCAA tournament. But yeah, she's playing better. The team's playing better. And yeah, they beat the Mercury, who were the first team at 500. They went below 500 with the loss to the Fever, but at 500 or better. But, they're not the best team in the league, and they were never going to be. So you have to beat the teams that are at your level or below. And as you said, they beat, the Mercury, who were a 500 team. The Aces are getting healthier. Chelsea Gray is playing for them now. And one of the better teams in the league, and they're right with them here in the second quarter. We'll kind of keep you updated as it goes here. But this is one of those games they moved to T-Mobile Arena. Sold out. Lisa Bluter, I can see right in front row. 3 Hawkeyes there. So it's a big night. It's on ESPN. So very, very good WNBA moment right now.
Yeah, for sure. Big crowd there. Hopefully the Fever can keep with them up into the fourth quarter. My guess would be, Las Vegas gets the win. They're just more experienced, back-to-back champs. But, if the Fever can keep it within 10, play a good game, I think they can keep that momentum going the rest of the season. So we'll see how it goes. I can't see it, but I know you've got it on. So if anything big happens, feel free to interrupt.
Yeah, I've got it on right in front of me here. I do this podcast from my living room, and I know you don't there. So, the other thing with the WNBA that came out today, the All-Star team was announced. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Aaliyah Boston, essentially all the players that aren't on the Olympic team that you've heard of or recognize are on this team. And the important part about that is they play against the Olympic team as part of the warm up and prep for the Olympic team. So you're going to see how Caitlin Clark does against the Olympians. And the Mercury the other night, I believe, had 3 Olympians on their team, Tarasi, Griner, and then one other. I couldn't tell you who that is. But it'll just be a good experience, and I think it will be good for Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese to be on the same team and get some practice time together because, like it or not, they're the face of this league for the next 10 to 15 years if they want to be. And that continues down this path. That they're the two, they're the Bird Magic. They're the, the Jordan and the Detroit Pistons. They're that type of. Now they need, hopefully those teams get better and they can get to playing in championships and playing in, I don't know exactly how they do it all, conference championships, whatever they have to do. Because right now they are 2 of the, bottom half teams. But that's what you get when you have a few of the high draft picks here. But, and as we talked about, I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago, or I forget, maybe I talked about it with Zach, but the WNBA missed it and the Olympic Committee missed it on having Caitlin Clark practice with A'ja Wilson and learn from her. And so those girls can see what she's about and then she can see what they're about instead of just being confrontational all the time.
Yeah, we spoke about it before too. Probably a missed opportunity, or definitely a missed opportunity for a marketing 101 and getting Caitlin some experience. But you're right, that All-Star game versus the Olympic team, that the ratings will be out the roof for that one. And yeah, in future Olympic teams, obviously, Caitlin and Angel are going to be teammates for sure. Those two will be on the next Olympic team. If things keep trending and they stay healthy. So that'll be a fun one to watch.
Absolutely. All right, now let's move on to kind of the topic of today. The calendar is flipped to July. It's July 2nd. July 1st, several conferences changed in college sports officially, and there are a few more that do not officially happen till August 1st. But Big 12 Media Days are 1 week from today in Las Vegas. The Big 12 standings, preseason media standings came out today. So football season is here. And in America, football is king. And football, if football is being talked about or football being played, everything else goes to second. And then the hierarchy continues down because football is number 1. So just a couple things. Most of y'all know this, but officially Oklahoma and Texas are now in the SEC. That did happen yesterday, July 1st. The Big 12, the 4 new ones will be obviously Oklahoma and Texas left, Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. That does not officially happen till August 1st. I do know that. Now, obviously they're included in the Big 12 standings, and when the media days come, they were going to be there. But officially, I do not believe it's till August 1st. And I believe the same thing with the Big 10. It is not until August 1st, either for USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon, because I read something where their schools out west, like most of the Pac-12, they go to school till like June 20th, college. And you think about like Iowa colleges, they're done like the 10th of May. So something they do out there, maybe they don't go in January. I know a lot of schools have like a J term, and I know a lot of the D3 schools like Central and Simpson and BV, they have what they call like a J term where they take like one class to get a credit, and that's where a lot of students go abroad for a month instead of going for a semester. They can just go for a month, and several of my friends did that in college. So I don't know if they do that more at the big school level or it's just something they do. So they're barely done with school, and that's why they're not officially making the transition until August. So just probably trying to get, this is nothing about school and nothing about grades, but these schools do collaborate in research. That is the side of this that people do forget. The Big Ten is a great research conference. They all have medical school, and it's one of the reasons why Iowa State is not in the Big Ten. They don't have a medical school. They don't have this, and this that all the other schools do have, or most of the other schools have, to collaborate and try to solve problems. That's what colleges are about: asking questions, solving problems, and trying to make things better. And then, the ACC, Stanford, Cal, and SMU. And that's the weirdest combination ever, going to the ACC. And then I also was listening to some people today on the radio that if you look deeper, so everybody talks about those three, and then the Big 12 officially is done. There's two schools, Oregon State and Washington State in the Pac-12. But if you go look at the Summit League or Conference USA or the American, those have all changed too. And you don't think about those as much, but I look at the Missouri Valley Basketball League, where Belmont has came in, Murray State is now in, Creighton has left that, Wichita State has left that. It's just it's just a trickle down effect. And honestly, it's happening in high school. We left the CIML in Ottumwa, joined the Alliance. There are already discussions that several of schools that have started the Alliance want out and want to start something different or go join. It's never ending. And that's just reality of today's environment, that everybody's looking for a different situation or want what's best for them. One thing that's happening here in Iowa, and I think maybe Zach and I talked about it, but Waverly Shell Rock has been kicked out of their conference and no other conference wants them in. So they actually do not have a conference and are asking the state to put them in a conference, which is crazy.
Yeah, the conference changes are weird, especially around college. There's the Big Ten, the Pac-12 merging, the SEC teams, and the new Big 12. Those are really, I think, the three that most people focus on. But as you just mentioned, there's the smaller conferences. There's the ACC is weird, and I didn't even really know about high school trickling down into that, because high school is just something I don't pay attention to. That's definitely you and Zach's area of expertise. But yeah, for Shell Rock, I mean, you would think that they would almost have to get into a conference somewhere, wouldn't they? The state would step in, and otherwise, how do they schedule how do they make their schedule then?
They would just be essentially just go find their own. Now, I truly believe they should come to our conference, but I don't know if other schools believe that or if they really want to come to ours. The problem is they're big, but they're not really big, and they're really, really good at wrestling, like top 2 school in the state in wrestling. But and they're good in every sport. And what happened is the conference that they were in, they were 2 to 3 times bigger than almost every other school. And they were dominating that conference in every sport, everything. And I understand that. They essentially are a suburb of Waterloo, Cedar Falls. Not exact, but it's close. So a lot of people, and they were playing, a Charles City, a Decorah, New Hampton, that are kind of out in the middle of nowhere, bigger towns, but yet not growing a ton because they weren't close to a city. But Waverly Shell Rock, where it's, it is not right next there, but it's close enough where if you want to live there and work in the Waterloo, Cedar Falls area, obviously it's very easy to do.
Yeah, that's just, I didn't even realize that was going on. So that was kind of the point of this episode when I texted you, was to kind of get back into football mode. Once August gets here, we're for sure going to be fully into football mode here on the podcast. And yeah, that was definitely the point of this, was just to kind of get ready for college, get ready for NFL, and just, like I said, make that jump, because here in about 4 or 5 weeks, we're going to hit it hard.
Absolutely. And then, kind of the last thing here on the college front, and then we'll move to the NFL and a couple other things that you want to talk about. The Big 12 media standings did come out for football. It's weird seeing 16 teams. And the bottom team is Arizona State. And they haven't been good. I think they have another new coach. Maybe this will be his second year, but he's a young guy. And the Herm Edwards debacle and, kind of put them back with some probation for, recruiting during COVID and all that kind of weird stuff. Whatever happened. COVID was weird. No one knew what to do. And some people did things 100% correct. Some didn't. Some got caught. Some didn't. I truly believe that's what happened there. But listing the Big 12 standings in the order of the media predictions: Utah 1, K-State 2, Oklahoma State 3, Kansas 4, Arizona 5, and then Iowa State 6th. I don't have a huge problem with that. I do think Utah, K-State, I think is just a touch above everybody else. And then you could kind of, those next 4 teams, I think if you wanted to move one around up or down a spot or two, I don't think anybody would really have a big argument. Utah, obviously, the consistency, they're good every year. Their coach is great, which kind of, they announced a coach in waiting today. So it's kind of news in that front. K-State has been really good. They continue to be good. And the weird thing about those two, that's the last 2 teams Iowa State plays this year. They play at Utah and then home to Kansas State to finish the year. So they're going to be, if Iowa State can just keep their, close, lose only 1, maybe 2 in conference play up until those last couple of weeks, they're going to be right there because they're going to be able to control their destiny. Now, that's a hard 2 games. I mean, I think right now you split those 2, you're going to be just fine, but you may need both of them to get to that Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma State returns a lot. They're running back, one of the best in the league. Arizona is a question mark in my book. Coach left, a lot of players left. They do return their quarterback, and then we'll see how their new coach does. Kansas should be better. I do think Kansas has a little bit of a question mark because they're not playing at home. Their stadium is under construction. Like, they're playing Iowa State at Arrowhead. I think they're playing a couple games at a soccer stadium in Kansas City. So they don't truly have a home advantage this year now. Suburb of Kansas City. So it's not a huge deal. And then Iowa State returns, 85%. So I think they're should be right there and should be in contention, but we'll see.
Yeah, I saw the standings come out. So I saw Keith Murphy posted it. My initial reaction was my guess was Utah was going to be number 1 just because they've been a dominant program consistently for about the past 20 years, it feels like. And then I actually thought Oklahoma State might be 2 because I think they returned 19 or 20 starters. You mentioned a bunch of them. Actually, their running back, is it Ollie Gordon or whatever his name is? He got in trouble this morning, possible DUI. He's a potential first-round pick in the NFL draft. So that's a big deal. We'll wait to see how that plays out. But I've really got no problem with it. My guess was Utah and then Oklahoma State, but I knew Kansas State would be right up there. And as you mentioned, with Iowa State's schedule, are you going to make it out to Utah for that game? Any chance?
I highly doubt it. I mean, obviously we'll go to all the home games with the camper and everything, but I'm not going to say never just because if it's a real big game and we don't have anything going on, I mean, I'm not going to say never, but I doubt it. I mean, and it's a strong doubt it, but it's one of those, I think that'd be great, to go see. And I think the Arizona game, which Iowa State does not play Arizona this year in football, the basketball did come out, and we're not going to talk about that today, but they do have a home and home with Arizona. So they will be going to Arizona for basketball, and basketball is a whole different animal this year for Iowa State. Just got another big recruit, and as of today, they're number 1 recruiting class in the country, according to 247. So they just continue to get better and better with recruiting there. The only question I have with Utah, where you could have an argument that K-State and Oklahoma State maybe could be in front of them, is they're going to a new league. They're going to new cities. They're staying in different hotels. Their coaches may not know these coaches as well as other Pac-12. You know kind of what I'm saying there? There is some familiarity with, Kansas State. When they come up to Ames, they're going to stay in the same hotel. They know exactly what to do that they've done for, the last 5 years with Coach Kleiman. If Oklahoma State comes up to Ames, they know what to do. Iowa State goes to Oklahoma State. Now, the advantage is when Iowa State goes to Utah, it's going to be new to them. But that's only a couple teams this year. Utah, every time they go on the road to a Big 12 team that's not Arizona State, or Colorado, it's going to be new to them. So that's the only question mark I have for Utah. Other than that, like the actual football team and on the field should be fine. But it's just there is some newness. I think the transition is different because they were in the Pac-12, so they're used to playing. It's not Central Florida coming. It's not Houston coming. It's not Cincinnati coming, where they didn't play Power 5 football teams every week. These teams did. So the transition is going to be less. Now, like at Colorado, these, obviously Matt Campbell and all the players and all those coaches have no idea how to go to Colorado and do what they do. But there are still a few people around the football program that knows what it's like to go to Colorado and have done it. So it's not new for the Iowa State to go to Colorado. That is the one team.
That's definitely.
Sorry, I can't. I don't remember. I didn't write all 16 teams down. I think it's just too many to write. Where Colorado was. Is there buzz out there at all for Colorado with Deion for a second year? And do you think obviously they were the darling for the first month of the season, and then they fell off and didn't even get to a bowl game. Is there any talk out there in Colorado about them? And do you think they'll be better?
I do think they'll be better. How that translates to more wins, we'll see. The rankings that I saw, I think they were 12th or 13th predictions for the Big 12, somewhere in the bottom half, definitely. The momentum has died down, which that's to be expected, especially the way they finished the rest of their season last year. So it'll all depend on their record. If they're doing good, if Shedeur and Travis Hunter are putting up big numbers, they'll be in the spotlight most weeks. College Game Day may come out. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, the momentum's died down. There's still plenty of talk just because of Deion and Shedeur with the whole Twitter stuff that we talked about a while back, just some of the silliness. But I think they should be better. They brought in some new linemen on both sides, which is what they needed to do. But I think if they can get to 6 wins this year, that would be a victory.
Yeah, just I don't know who these, the Twitter spat that they got in, and we talked about it a month or so ago, whatever it was. I don't even remember that guy, whatever. It's not a good look, and hopefully they've gotten by that. And yeah, if they got an offensive line better to protect Shedeur, they'll be better, and they'll be, I think, significantly better. Now, again, they could be a better football team and not have as many wins, just because sometimes that's how football goes. But I do believe they'll be better as long as their lines are better.
Yeah, we'll see how they do. I'd like to get to a game this year if I could there. The tickets will be all jacked up, but if they go on a losing streak, we know the momentum will die down a little bit, and so will the tickets. Hopefully, we'll see how that goes.
That is a cool place to watch a game.
I don't think
very cool.
Yeah, and I don't think they're gonna. I think their max wins would be 6 or 7, and like you said, they could go like 5 and 7 or whatever the exact record would be. Show improvements, but not show significant improvements in the win column.
Right. I agree. All right. That's probably, kind of enough college stuff for now. Let's go ahead and move on to your NFL stuff. And the big thing here on your list to run down here was the new kickoff rule. I've heard about it, intrigued about it, because I think someone like Tory Taylor could be used even more now. And there's some some teams, the field goal kicker doesn't do the kickoffs, and a lot of times it's the punter, but sometimes it's not even the punter. And so you have a third guy that is, the kicker that just is a kickoff guy. Well, that position, I believe, essentially is going to be null and void now because of the new rules where it's truly not to your advantage to just go there and kick it as far as you can, kick it in the end zone. Am I correct in that? And you want to place it in certain spots, and where everybody's at is going to be super weird. It's going to be weird for football fans to watch the first time you see it.
You're on NFL.com or Google, and you can look up all the rules. I don't want to go through all of them because it's a lot to explain. What is going to be interesting, though, is you're right. If you do kick the ball out of the end zone, a touchback, and now goes to the 30, and that 5 yards difference, some people are saying is not a big deal. I think you and I both agree 5 yards is a big deal in starting field position. I think scoring will be up this year. Really, where I find it interesting potentially is in big games, late season games, playoff games. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but for an example, let's say Dallas is playing at Philadelphia the final week of the regular season, and the winner of the game wins the division and gets to host a home playoff game. Close game at half. Coach Sirianni goes up to Saquon Barkley and says, "You're returning kicks the rest of the second half." Dallas has to make a decision then. Do you want Saquon Barkley touching the ball? If you're the Eagles, you're happy about that because all he has to do is break one tackle or find a hole, and he's taken it to the house. Or do you just boot it out of the end zone and let the Eagles start at the 30 each time? If you're the Eagles, either way, it's a win-win. If you start at the 30, you'll gladly take that. That 5 yards is a big difference. You could look at in the playoffs. Maybe, the Bills are playing the Dolphins or something, and obviously the winner would advance. And Mike McDaniel says, "Tyreek, you're going to be the kick returner all game." I think teams are going to have their emergency kick returners for big games and big situations. Bills score with 41 seconds left to take a lead. The Dolphins have a timeout. The Bills now have a decision to make. Are they going to let Tyreek touch the ball? Or are they going to try to boot it out? Also, late in the season, too, different stadiums, will kickers even be able to get it out of the end zone with the elements?
I mean, I agree. And just a couple, do you know where the kickoff team is going to be standing where? Do you know that exactly off the top of your head?
40.
At the 40.
At the 40 on the other side.
Right. So, the kicker is going to be back there by himself, even more than he's ever been. And they can't move until the ball is caught, correct?
No, it's caught, or I think I'd have to go back and look. Again, there's a bunch of rules, and it'll take me some time, too, to kind of figure it out the first few weeks. But I think even if the ball hits the ground in what they call the landing zone, then I think everybody can start moving.
Okay.
And the kicker and the return guys are the only one that can move to start. I believe the kicker cannot cross the 50 until the ball lands in the landing zone or the returner touches the football.
Yeah.
So there is a bunch of rules.
Hit the ground. Yeah.
And I'll just kind of figure that out as I go. I was reading through it, and it's one of those things where I'll watch and learn. I think the aspect of the chess match of late in season, the weather, do teams put a CD Lamb, a Saquon Barkley, a Tyreek Hill? What if the Chiefs and the 49ers meet in the Super Bowl again? Does Shanahan go up to Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel? Because you can have two returners back there if you want and say you guys are going to return the ball all game because it's the last game of the season. We need some big plays, and whoever they're playing has a decision to make. So I think that's really what if it plays out like I think it will, I'm hoping we get some good moments out of the kickoff.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely going to be put those special teams coordinator thinking caps on and trying new things, because they did this in the XFL or USFL, whatever you want to call it, and that's where they've kind of tested it, and it worked pretty good. And we'll see how it goes. And it's it's worth a shot because there's too many plays in the NFL now that are essentially just they don't want that. Essentially, they don't want that play to happen. And this is a way to keep the play in the game, but yet not have the collisions. That's what's been proven, that collision and that play, even though it's super exciting and it's super awesome. And there's been guys that's made a career out of returning those kicks. And you look at it like a Devin Hester. Does he even have a job now? Probably not, because I think you're 100% right. You're daring teams, and you're going to put maybe your best guy back there because you think if you just put him standing back there, they're not going to kick to him. They're just going to kick it out of the end zone every time, which is okay. That guy's playing a snap, but he's not taking any beating or anything. And then, again, it's just another chance if they do not kick it correctly or decide to kick it to him. Then it's another situation where you get your guy the ball in his hands. And with them only being at the 40-yard line and coming down there, one or two misses and they're gone.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams will just try to kick it out, like I said, the first half of the season. But as the weather changes, though, there are going to be some kickers who, depending on the wind, for 2 quarters at least out of the game, they're not going to be able to do that. So I think regardless, we are still going to see some kicks. The punt returns and everything. Yeah, I think Devin Hester would still be fine, but yeah, we'll see how it plays out. There was when they made the rule change, at first they were going to let the touchback come back to the 35 instead of the 30. Then they moved it back to the 30. I think if it was a 35, then you've even got more of a chance at returns, because then you're talking about a 10-yard difference compared to a 5-yard difference, which it is now. So I'm excited to see how it plays out, but I think it'll be more interesting the second half of the season than in bad weather games.
Agreed. All right. What's next on your list here? Let me pull it up.
The hot seat coaches.
Okay. Yep.
So who's going to be the first to get fired? I just wrote down some names. I think an easy one is Robert Saleh with the Jets if they start out slow. Now, given their schedule, outside of week 1, they play the 49ers. Their schedule looks pretty favorable. So I think they're going to get off to a good start. Mike Peterson with the Jags. If they miss the playoffs again, I think there's a chance he gets canned. And then Nick Sirianni and Mike McCarthy. If either of those guys miss the playoffs or even don't win a playoff game, they're probably gone. Mike McCarthy's on the last year of his contract, so he's sort of in the lame duck situation right now. Brian Daboll with the Giants. They've got to show some improvements this year. We'll see how Daniel Jones does there. And then obviously the last two is Matt Eberflus with your Bears. They're going to need to show some improvements, especially on offense, get some more wins. I think if they were to get to 10-7 or something like that and miss the playoffs, pretty good chance I think he still comes back.
Yeah. I would agree. If he gets to 10 wins, playoffs or not, yeah, he's in.
And then the last one is Dennis Allen with the Saints. So one of those guys probably gets fired in season. We usually have one coach that gets fired during the season. So just kind of be interested who it would be. And then that kind of leads me into who are the surprise teams going to be this year. And I wrote down 8 names here: Panthers, Patriots, Titans, Giants, Commanders, Raiders, Broncos, and Cardinals. One of those teams is going to pop. Every year we have a team that we don't see coming, and I think most people would agree those are 8 of the 10 worst teams expected going into the season, and most of them probably won't be very good, but one of them is going to pop. And when we do our season preview, I'll try to have 1 or 2 that I would think bet the over on their wins or a potential surprise playoff team.
Yeah, I've actually, there's some people that are kind of intrigued with the Panthers, that if Bryce Young can play a little better, and maybe he was just out of his league for a year. He didn't look very good last year, but if he can make the improvements and be a competent quarterback, that division isn't great, which it's not, the NFC South, they might have a chance.
Yeah, you can really make an argument for any of these teams. The Panthers brought in Deontay Johnson, drafted some other players, got a new coach. Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield had arguably their best seasons with the coach. So there's a chance that they improve. They've just got a wacky owner. So That's always an issue with some of these teams. But one of those teams I listed will surprise us. I don't know who it's going to be yet, but like I said, when we do our season preview, I'll try to pick one or two.
All right, and then,
And
I think
then
next you have what was next on your list here? Sorry, kind of your
the new
playoff
playoff teams.
team.
So
Yep.
there's when they went to the new 14 team playoff system, there's between 6 and 7 new playoff teams every year. I think it's like 6.4 or 6.7. I forget what the exact number is, but I just wrote down some teams that made the playoffs last year and who they could be replaced by, and would you be surprised? I think we'll start with the AFC. An easy one is the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals could easily replace them if Joe Burrow stays healthy. That's an easy one, I think. The Dolphins could be replaced by the Jets. Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. Jets should be pretty good. Dolphins have some questions in the trenches. And then the Browns, could the Jags, the Colts, or the Chargers replace them as a wild card team? So I think those are three easy ones there in the AFC. If you flip it over to the NFC, the Bucs made the playoffs last year. Most people are going to pick the Falcons, and that one just because of the addition of Kirk Cousins. The Packers, was that a blip the second half of last year, or was that a sign of things to come? And then the Cowboys and Eagles, I think there's a pretty good chance only one of them make it this year. I don't think they're both going to make it. And obviously, if they don't, those coaches are gone. So, yeah, if you look at the playoff bracket, if you're a fan of a team and your team made it, there's a decent chance, unless you're the Chiefs or someone like that, or the 49ers, your team might not be back in the playoffs because, like I said, since they went to the new 14-team playoff, between 6 and 7 new teams make it every year, which is exactly what the NFL wants, because it gives all these different fan bases hope that at least their team could get in the dance.
That's exactly what the NFL wants, Major League Baseball wants, the NBA wants, hope. They don't really care who gets in. I mean, they do care, but they know only a certain amount of teams, but they want the most teams in it for the longest. That's why the Major League Baseball keeps adding wild card teams, because that just gives 2 or 3 more teams 3 more weeks of hope, 4 more weeks of hope, or at least 2 more weeks. Are they in, right at the trade deadline, or they want more teams in contention instead of just everybody ditching everybody. And there's so much money involved, and they want the coaches and the players want, hey, we made the playoffs 4 straight years, so they can get more money for their coaches. Or, as a quarterback, I led my team to the playoffs 4 straight years. When he hits free agency, I can get an extra $10 million or whatever it is. The answer to every question is money.
And last year, I think it was week 16, and I think 24 or 25 of the NFL teams were still alive to make the playoffs. Now, a few of those were long shots, but still, there was a chance if they went on a winning streak. And the thing that's different with the NFL, speaking of the draft, you look at a team like the Texans, who nobody saw coming. Well, they hit on their coach, their quarterback, and 2 or 3 other players that they drafted. That's how quick things can change in the NFL. The NBA draft was just the other night. None of these teams with these players most of them are going to even be ready to play yet, right? They're all, they all take time. I think baseball is kind of the same way. I'm not a baseball expert, but from what I understand, baseball usually takes a few years for a guy to develop. The NFL draft, you can get 3, 4, 5 starters that come in and make an impact day one for you.
Well, yeah, the NFL draft is for players that are ready to play now. Every other draft is all about potential. The NBA does not care what you did in college. They don't care. Actually, they don't even want you in college. I think if you really deep down ask like team owners and GMs and coaches, they just soon have you come right out of high school, get you in their development, and see what you're made of. But the NFL is just such a different game where you cannot draft a player in the first round that's a developmental guy. He is a starter. Really, I believe your first 3 rounds are players that you expect to come in and contribute today. They don't necessarily always have to start, but they better help your football team win football games. And if they don't, then you missed. Now, rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, you're trying to find that diamond in the rough or a position of need or depth. You do need a backup corner. You do need a backup linebacker because people get hurt. But it's a guy that you think he will help your team, but not expecting him to do it from day one. And if he does, it's a bonus. But you look at the NBA, they're 18 years old, they're 7 foot, and they're athletic. That's all they care about.
And some of them are still growing. The NBA players
right.
that come into 18, 19, 20, they're still growing. The NFL, you have to be out of high school for 3 years. They obviously can get a little bit bigger, put on some muscle, mess with their weight, but they kind of are what they are when they're drafted.
Yep.
They can change a little bit, but yeah, you're right. The first 3 rounds, you want starters or contributors. Even if they don't start, you want them to make some sort of an impact on the team. And yeah, rounds 4 through 7, sometimes you take flyers on a guy just because of his measurables or he tested good, or it's just a position of need, as you mentioned, for depth. So yeah, the NFL with 6 or 7 new teams, if you're a middle of the pack or lower end team last year and you hit on a draft, you could find yourself in the playoffs within 1 year.
Well, and then, you look at the Cubs this year, and I know this is a little off topic here, but the Cubs' big offseason acquisition had nothing to do with a player. They went out and got the best manager. But they didn't help their team a lot. They did a few things, but they're still bad. It might even be worse. And they got so-called the best manager in baseball. So, and it's been the tale as old as time. If Phil Jackson was coaching, the worst team in the league, the Golden State Warriors during his time, that was about the worst team in the league. Would he have been the Hall of Fame coach? No. He coached, you could argue, 4 or 5 of the best 50 NBA players of all time. Now, he got those jobs because he was really good, and, it's a chicken or the egg thing. But, he got those guys to play together, Pippen and Jordan playing together along with other guys. Dennis Rodman came in, Luke Longley came in, just a bunch of other guys, Tony Kukoc, it's kind of the stars there. And then obviously with the Lakers, it could not have been easy with Kobe and Shaq. They were both A personalities, and they both wanted everything, and they couldn't have everything together. But as long as they worked together a little bit, they were going to win. And that was his greatest gift. It wasn't X's and O's. It was getting people to play together and at least doing what's best for the team for those 100 games of the year, whatever it is, with the playoffs and everything. And yeah, it's putting your team together and your roster together and coaching staff so everything works moving forward in the right direction. Just some people have it and some don't.
Yeah, basketball definitely you need some players to get those wins. As you mentioned with Phil Jackson there, coaching whatever 4 or 5 of the top 50 players of all time, certainly helped. But you're right, it's a chicken or egg thing. How good would he have been if he coached the bad teams? And just getting back to the NFL here, one last thing that I'd written down, and then a question for you after that. I know I didn't send you. I forgot to. The whole Dak contract, the Cowboys, they got a bunch of players that want paid. They got Micah Parsons going on podcast, typical Cowboy drama. My guess is they're gonna get a deal done with Dak because we've never seen a quarterback that young that puts up that many regular season wins and that good of stats hit free agency. Peyton Manning was different. He had a significant neck injury, and they didn't know if he could really even play again. He even admitted that. So my guess is they get a deal done. If they don't, he's going to have a lot of suitors next year. If he hits free agency, he will be the highest paid quarterback in history. You look at the Steelers, the Raiders, and the Giants stick out to me. One of them would definitely sign him. And I think the Seahawks and Jets would be in play too, depending what happens with Aaron Rodgers and Geno Smith. So there will be a market for Dak. I mean, if Tua was to get hurt, another concussion, he could go to Miami and play with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So my guess is Jerry Jones will give in and give him a big deal. But just I would love to see Dak hit free agency because that would be a media frenzy and that would make for a fun offseason.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. Just he gives you too good a chance to win. It's not a guarantee, and he hasn't proven it yet. But if he's your quarterback for the season, if he starts every game, you're going to be there. And then it just comes down to a few plays here or there in a game. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, he's if he's healthy, he's going to get you 9+ wins, 10. That they've won 12 in a row the past 3 years, I think it is. So no, he definitely wins a lot of regular season games, and then this leads me into something that I saw the other day, and I forgot to text it to you. There was a poll online, not on Facebook or anything silly like that, but it said of these three quarterbacks, who would you want, assuming you have a good team around you? Jared Goff, Dak, or Kirk Cousins? And do you want to guess the order of the voting?
Cousins last, Goff second, Dak first. That's probably
Dak first, Cousins second, Goff last.
Really?
And I just, for the life of me, now I personally would take Goff 1, Dak 2, Cousins 3. Jared Goff has more playoff wins than both of them combined in their careers. And people can say Goff, yeah, he had the McVay thing, sure, but he also went to Detroit and is now proven it with a team that hardly ever gets to the playoffs and hadn't been to the conference championship in who knows how long. So I would take Dak, or I would take Goff first, but wanted to get your opinion, the order of if you could pick, how would you pick?
Yeah, I mean, I would go Dak first, Goff second. But Goff, and we've talked about this, Goff is super underrated. Been to the Super Bowl. Detroit is in contention. They're one of the favorites again this year. He has done nothing wrong. He was number one pick. I mean, he's won everywhere he's been. They just thought they could get an upgrade, and it worked out for him. And Detroit should be super happy with the trade too. Yeah, they would have loved to have Stafford, but they got what they wanted to, a younger quarterback that's there for longer, and it's probably better right now. Now, for that 1 year and for that 2-year stretch, Stafford was better, but in the long run, Goff is exactly what Detroit wants and needs.
Yeah, that was a rare trade where it worked out really well. Yeah, and I get some people taking Dak. The Cousins over Goff, I just couldn't understand for the life of me. And it was by a pretty wide margin. And I was talking to some folks online about it, and they said, well, look at these numbers that Cousins put up. I said, yeah, but do you watch the game? I mean, we've all known the primetime Kirk Cousins, the playoffs, like Goff. I think it's a no-brainer. Goff is better than Kirk Cousins. Now, if you want to argue Dak, I think that's a better argument. Like I said, I would take Goff, but I just cannot understand people after this many years of watching Kirk Cousins still think that they'd rather have him than Goff. Just my opinion.
Cousins has like 2 or 3 wins in primetime in his career. I mean, it's crazy, his record in primetime.
I think he's got 1-3 or 1-4 in the playoffs. I think Goff is 5-4 now. I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, it was just an interesting poll and wanted to kind of get your opinion on it.
No, I'd put Dak 1, but I understand if you want to put Goff 1. I mean, those two are definitely heading ahead above Kirk Cousins. Maybe not head and shoulders above, but they're definitely ahead above.
Yeah, that's my opinion on it. But no, that's kind of all I had for NFL stuff. I just wanted to kind of get my mind thinking about NFL again. We got the Olympics coming up, but as I mentioned, once August gets here and college football gets closer, I think this Saturday will be seven Saturdays until college football starts, or at least until game day's back. It might be less than 7 weeks.
This last Saturday was 8. So I saw Herb Street put out 8 Saturdays.
So we're getting close. I mean, I'll have to start diving into the Iowa football team and the roster a little bit more. I really haven't done that much lately, but anyway, I just thought it'd be good. We've done a lot of Caitlin Clark and some other stuff. I thought it would just be good to do a quick football one and refresh our brains a little bit on that.
Absolutely. It is football time. It's flipping. Olympics are coming. When does the NFL training camp start? Do you know?
I don't have the dates written down. I forget. I'd have to go back and look. I can get on Google real quick and do it. But yeah, that's
Not a
those
big
will be coming up here sooner than later, and we'll be getting back into football. So the only thing makes me sad when football starts is summer's kind of coming to an end once we get to that point. And then one thing you and Zach talked about that we didn't talk about in the college section, which I think it's going to be fun, is that December 21st, that Saturday where it's the 2 NFL games and then the 3 or 4 college football playoff games.
Yeah, it was
I'm
3
getting a
college
little ahead of
football
myself.
games.
3. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I would hope we could get our friends group together. If everybody's in town, at least at minimum go to the Elks or someone's house, or even maybe take a day trip up to Des Moines to Prairie Meadows. Because I think that December 21st, I think is going to feel like
And
January
that's my
1st
birthday
with
too.
all these games.
Yeah, the Friday the 20th
Oh.
is my birthday. So that's so there's the one playoff game Friday night, which will probably be the best, quote unquote, the best game because it's a standalone. And then there's 3 college playoff games and 2 NFL games. And they have to overlap. I mean, I don't know how you can't.
Yeah, there will definitely be some overlap, but I'm looking forward to that Friday and that Saturday. I think that'd be a good time. Like I said, if everybody's around town, try to get together Friday night or even on Saturday, because that would be just a full day of watching football. And as we know, December in Iowa, it's going to be cold out and not much else to do. So may as well spend a whole day watching football together.
Absolutely. I'm up for whatever. So I'll be 45 years old then. Holy smokes.
There we go. We'll definitely have to celebrate if you're around, or unless you're gone on a vacation. I know some people will be taking some vacations in some warmer climates that time of year.
Yeah, I don't mind going. December isn't usually the worst weather. I'd much rather go on January or February somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But all right. Well,
no, I
we're
agree.
about
January,
50
February
minutes here.
definitely be better.
Yeah, about 50 minutes here is probably good enough for tonight. Again, thanks everybody for listening, tuning in. We do have video now, so I know if you listen on Spotify, I think it comes up as the video. I've been trying to put them up on YouTube as well. Morgan Asked For podcast, YouTube, I believe it comes up as. And again, just thanks for everybody, and like, rate, review. Send me a screenshot of that at Morgan Asked For podcast at gmail.com. And I'll send you a koozie. Tell your friends, send it to your family. More people watch and listen, the better. It helps us out a lot.
Thanks everyone for listening. Have a good night.